Let me bring in former senior US government official and foreign policy expert Adolfo Franco to talk more about this. Let's begin by talking about the misinformation warfare, especially in moments of heightened tension. In your opinion, how does media warfare and competing information narratives really affect diplomatic decision-making?
Well, first, thank you very much for the invitation. That was an excellent report, and unfortunately, this is not limited to the India-Pakistan conflict. This is now a global phenomena. Our president, President Trump of the United States, often refers to fake news. Now, not everything is fake news, but the problem is compounded not just by the digital ability of anyone going on and declaring themselves a journalist, which is what's happening in the digital space. But in addition to that is that journalism has become increasingly advocacy. As your report suggested, there is this line about journalistic integrity. In the United States, frankly, anyone can declare themselves a journalist. Many of the major news media in the United States, their reporters such as yourselves or anchors, are former government officials of both Democratic and Republican administrations. So to answer your question, it influences greatly. These so-called journalists are often recognized figures, popular figures, and have followings. I'm not talking about just the media use or the digital use of the platforms that exist, but the actual people who are identifying themselves as journalists have no standards, at least in the United States, other than their self-proclamation. So they become the ultimate influencers. And yes, they influence public opinion. Traditionally, the conflict, for example, in India and Pakistan, or currently in Iran with the United States, we would be accustomed to governmental propaganda. Now that has been replaced by self-declared journalists who carry this narrative on behalf of their respective sides.
Now that we have spoken about misinformation and misinformation warfare, I want to shift gears a little and ask, how has the US managed the tension between its strategic partnership with India and also its long-standing security relationship with Pakistan during periods of direct Indo-Pakistan military confrontation?
Well, it's a delicate balance, and it's been that for a number of years, but it's increasingly so for two reasons. The United States views the relationship with both countries as critical and crucial. Obviously, we know the historical animosity, suspicion, and rivalry between the two. With respect to Pakistan, that had been, of course, our traditional ally for many, many, many years. This is during the Cold War, while India was more in the old Soviet orbit. Now that has changed dramatically for some time, and India has become more of an important partner for the U.S. regarding trade and particularly technology. And of course, there's a very large Indo-American population in the United States, which is quite affluent and influential. But beyond that, it's been seen by the United States as a global partner in countering Chinese influence, which is, of course, our number one, from the American perspective, adversary, both economically and militarily. So India has become more prominent in a global setting. At the same time, Pakistan is a key ally for our regional issues and concerns. It is a Muslim country that exerts significant influence in the Middle East, as obviously evidenced most recently by its mediation. Prime Minister Sharif, for example, has a personal and excellent relationship with President Trump. Pakistan nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize award last year. And of course, it has credibility and influence with Iran and with our Arab allies, and alliance with Saudi Arabia, military alliance. And its closeness to China is both a concern and an advantage for the U.S. to maintain good relations with Pakistan. Therefore, it is a complicated dual relationship. But the United States tries to silo the relationship to the extent that it can. It played a key role in mediating the end of the conflict between India and Pakistan, most recently in Kashmir. and I think played a favorable role from the standpoint of both countries. But it is a complicated relationship, but we see our interests to be divergent for different reasons for both countries.
Rodolfo, you're very right when you talk about striking that balance. And
yes.
You would always hear complaints either from one side or the other about that balancing act. In that sense, do you think while Washington is trying its best to do that balancing act, has that balancing act tended to favor one side in practice more than the other?
Well, certainly on the economic front, it has favored India more recently for a number of reasons that have to do largely with China. I would say more recently, it has favored Pakistan. And I say this for this reason, and this is prior to the role that Pakistan is playing now, which is crucial. The relationship between the Prime Minister and President Trump is personal and strong. You might recall that we suspended assistance to Pakistan in 2017 under President Trump's first term. And there has been a radical change in this administration. Again, I'm speaking prior to not be self-serving, prior to the current mediation role that Pakistan plays. Our biggest concern is Afghanistan and the terrorism that is taking place in Pakistan. Even the last 2 days have been terrible with two major incidents. So that is, we see Pakistan as a buffer, and we are concerned. Obviously, it shares a border with Iran as well. So Pakistan has been shifting to more of a priority for the United States. And there is a reason, quickly, I might add, that India and the United States have had some disputes over the Russian-Iranian conflict and India's importation of Russian oil when the United States had asked that not take place. So those relationships have become strained.
Thank you so much, Adolfo Franco. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for helping our viewers make better sense of where the story is heading and how the relation between India and Pakistan is placed currently and what could happen over the next few years. Talat, as you heard, Adolfo Franco really helped us gain more sense of how the Washington is trying to strike that fine balance between maintaining its relations with India, but also with Pakistan, both very important players when it comes to South Asian geopolitically as well as economically. Back to you, Talat.
Thank you, Sahil. I was all ears listening to the frank assessment of Mr. Franco. He did drop the word Afghanistan towards the end of the conversation, and we know Afghanistan to have become the bleeding wound of South Asia, which causes problems beyond South Asian border.